All right. Woo. Perfect timing. What's going on, everyone? Falcone coming to you here from Nashville, Tennessee. And welcome to Falcone Fridays. That's usually how I do my intro, folks. We got a new setup going on tonight. Uh, as you can see, I got my PTC camera here. We got LB1 on the left. Got some music playing in the background. Check it out here. You can see we got 4 screens going on. I got a PTZ camera up in front of me here. Mevo camera to my right. I got LV1 below. And then Mevo, I got my Ableton screen here down here. I know the Mevo is a little late, but that's okay. We're going to get that figured out. It's because it's going to RTMP server in Chicago, and this one's directly here in my studio, so we got to balance that out. But nothing's perfect here, folks. But you can see I can go down to my LV1 screen here and show you what you're doing, or what I'm doing there. Got plugins and stuff like that we can show, get into the process. We can zoom in down on our Ableton screen here. And we can zoom back up like this. Zoom in the screen, get close and intimate and say, hey, how you doing? Welcome to the show. Here's my monitors, here's my studios, and this is the Mevo camera. Very nice. All right. And then we can zoom back out. Go to a 2 setup here. I can say, hey, how's it going? Explain something like this. All right. Say, hey, welcome to the show. Zoom over here. We'll go work on LV1. Zoom on back. Go over here. Pop down to Ableton. All kinds of stuff we can do, but that's basically the setup. And hey, how's it going? All right. So, I want to show you today kind of my process and how I go about setting up my sessions, and talk about gain staging and the middle ground that is stem mastering. And stem mastering is something that I kind of developed from in my process over the last few years, kind of out of necessity, really. The market really doesn't, value mixing as much as they used to. So, everyone's doing it themselves and learning on YouTube and getting it pretty good, for most things. But they know that it's not like what their favorite artists sound like, and they know they can still make it better. So I kind of developed a process to where I would take what they already had, all the hard work and the creativity and hours crafting this piece of music, and then just take groups or stems of their mix and run it through my chain. And through that, or one of the biggest things about that process is gain staging and how I choose to get level in stages and where I'm using or where I'm adding that level. And then, the process of taking away a lot to add level in a way that's not necessarily just turning on up an EQ, right? It's more of an organic thing. It's more, using circuitry and different tubes and things like that to add gain in a colorful musical way, and then maximizing those things to get a really full signal, and not having to just use a limiter to squash the hell out of it to get it to be loud. It's like I can make it as loud as I want and make it still sound clear, not squashed. I barely use a limiter in my process. A limiter is used at the very end to just do that, get it that extra 2-3 dB louder, to just get it to be commercially standard. So so let me run you through that process a little bit and kind of just give you a rundown of you know, how I do what I do. All right, so we will go over here down to Ableton. So it all starts in Ableton. I should probably put my little screen or my guy down in the screen here, but that's okay. I'm not going to do that on this show because I'm already rolling. So this is just a session or a project that I've basically got to a point where I did all the production. I even mixed it, and now it's like, all right, my computer couldn't handle anything anymore. Um, I can, start my quote stem mastering process, get it down to stems and groups, and sum it all together. So you can see I have drums here. This is my sub. I got aux synths, instruments, warpies. It's like kind of dubsteppy sounds. The drop section, some pads, effects chain, the vocals, and then this is my reference mix that I love, and I would release this one, but I know that I feel like there's something better in it, but man, does this one feel good. And that's all about what it matters. Is at the end of the day, if this process doesn't feel better than this one, I'm going to use this one because it feels good. So, and then another reference track to kind of match level because I was going to do it in groups. Anyway, that's kind of how I do basically a stem mastering session. You can see here I use external outputs. So I wish I can zoom in here for you, but I don't think I have that set up on this computer, but though I may be able to do that fairly quickly. But this is where I need Nathan Adam to, he would like search it, zoom, mouse zooming. No, zoom to enlarge screen, accessibility. There we go. Keyboard shortcut. No, this. Yeah. All right. Cool. That wasn't that bad. All right. So you see here on the right hand side, I've these are my outputs. So I'm using Wave Sound Grid as my audio interface. And Wave Sound Grid is a network-based audio transportation kind of system network, basically, where you can hook devices to your. Let's see. I just wanted to. This is where I kind of need someone to help me do this. Anyway, a Sound Grid network is. You can hook any device via Ethernet to a hub or a switch, and all those devices can share audio to and from each other. So there's a main brain in the system that is the Waves DLS, which it has a server, a DSP server similar to UA Audio in it. And it does all the processing of all the I/O, and then also it runs LV1, which I'll show you in a second. And then it also has two DigiLink cable connectors on it, and so I have a Pro Tools HD rig that I bought years back. So I have three 192s fully loaded with cards. So I have currently 32 outputs hooked up with 24 inputs. Connected to the DLS, so all of those I/O are now accessible to any machine that is on the Sound Grid network, including a laptop, which is wild. Before you needed a big Mac Pro computer with the PCIe cards and all that crazy shit, and it's like $10,000 to do all this. No, you laptop Ethernet cable access with one of these Sound Grid I/Os. They don't make the DLS anymore, but they have a DLI, which is like $600. You can get those 192 interfaces now for like $250 to $350 on eBay. I mean, which they used to cost $4,000. So for $1,000, you have a professional setup that you can hook into your laptop. Still need mic pre's and all that kind of other stuff, but for I/O, that's the best bang for your buck right now with the Sound Grid network. telling you, and I'm going to show you why. Yep. And then I also have in addition to this, I have a 16-channel summing bus, an analog summing bus, a passive analog summing bus. So it goes out of the 192 16 channels into the summing bus, comes out 2 channels, heads down to the BAE 1073 here. And because it's a passive summing bus, it loses level. So it has to be regained up. Now this is, again, where gain staging comes in. But the BAE 1073 that I have in my rack down here is the flavor of gain to compensate for that gain loss in the summing process. So I get the coloration from that unit, and then it goes through Night Pro EQ 3D, which is mastering EQ that has the magical 40K airband. So that thing's like set it and forget it. I don't touch the EQ on that. I have a setting that I like, and it just runs all the time. It's part of the vibe of the chain. And then it comes out of that back into an Apogee Rosetta 200 that converts it from analog to digital, but it also has a soft limit on there, so I'm able to drive getting gain and level from the preamp and the EQ, drive the inputs of the analog to digital converter, which has a soft limit on it, allowing me to get hotter level back into Pro Tools or back into Ableton, back into the box. And then I do some mastering stuff on LV1, which I'll show you, and then also back when it's in Ableton, and then it comes back out that Apogee Rosetta digital, and it converts it to analog. So I get to my passive monitor controller and then out my PMC 228 monitors. So that's the chain. The back into Ableton, so that's where these tracks are stemmed out to. So 1 and 2 is a drum, sub 3 and 4, aux synth 5 and 6, etc., etc. So if we hop over to LV1 now, and you'll see here that channels 1 through 8 are coming from my Mac Mini. So before I go into showing you that here, you'll see here's all the devices I have in my SoundGrid network. This is LV1. I have the DLS, which is where all my I/O are. I have my Mac Mini Local, which is my computer that I'm using right now. And then I have this desktop here, which is my PC that's doing all the streaming right now. So I'm sending all the audio from this machine via Ethernet to the PC that's doing the stream right now. That easy. It's pretty awesome. And then, yep, so then I also have my microphone here on channel 12. This is the return of the stream, so I can monitor, make sure it's going out right. And then if I go here and start playing some audio, you can see the drums are coming out because I have it sold in Ableton. That's coming out 1 and 2 here. So then if I go to my route page, these are my outputs. So these are your inputs. This is where you're getting, basically I'm sending out of Ableton, going out 1 and 2 from Ableton into this first channel, and then I'm sending out of this first channel to the DLS 1 and 2, which goes to 1 and 2 on the summing bus. Okay, so that's the signal path, basically. Right, so there's a gain stage in Ableton here. This is your first gain stage, which actually you have one before that, which we'll get into in other ways when we're mixing. But the first gain stage is your clip gain, right? On your channel, that's your first stage. If you want to gain your tracks down, because I find when I print back in, I gain my track down and use the limiter for its coloration sometimes. I usually do one where I turn it down 2 dB and use the limiter 2 dBs hotter, and then I'll just keep it where it was at 0 and then use the limiter 2 dBs lower and give them those options and see which one they like. Um, yeah, so the drums right here. So you see I have all my drums bussed to this group, and then see it's at nominal gain right now. It's at 0. That's usually where you want to be at this stage. When I have a drum group, everything already has its own, processing and things that are going on, its own level. But see, most of the stuff's still at 0. Um, because I'm really not touching it at this stage. It's more, this is gain staging, or I'm doing some dynamic EQ, taking things away, because when you make things louder, you know, you need you in order to make your song as loud as possible. It needs, all the frequencies have to be balanced in such a way that the level can be that loud without it sounding, distorted or squashed or something like that. So at this stage, I'm really taking a lot away, or I'm taking more things away and enhancing things with gain in another. So I'm getting coloration, I'm getting body, I'm getting fullness. I'm getting perceived volume from gain in different stages, while I'm using dynamic EQs to shape the sound, take away from the sound, carve the sound, because when you're boosting those things with level and gain and the harmonics, you get overtones and things that are sticking out a little too much. So a dynamic EQ helps control that a lot. So let's show you an example, because I've been talking too much without playing you any audio. So so let's focus on these drums, and I'm going to switch myself over to this, because I know it's going. All right. So I'm going to show you where I add gain, right? And what's the difference between gain and level, right? So right here I have this black box. It's kind of what it is. It's a magical black box. It's a saturator. It's a tube saturation, machine here. It's I just call it magic. It's pretty wild what this thing does. So let's play. Without it, with it, without, with, without. All right, so you can hear how much body came into the kick drum. Now, it's not like, whoa, blow your face off, but it's like this punch that's like, just the right everything in that frequency range. Like, it just hits you in the chest. And look at my level. My level didn't go up that much. That's my CPU. That's crapping out sometimes. Sorry about that, but you can hear the punch, and it's adding a lot of body. And I'm not touching an EQ here. It's just like I'm driving a tube preamp, if you will, and getting this body. Now this plugin is awesome because it has this. This is the new version. This is a black box by Analog Design from Plugin Alliance. You get with their monthly subscription for $14.99. You get all these plugins. I think it's one of the best ones out there. They have really cool stuff in there that you really can't get anywhere else, like this magical beast. So right here, there's a variable frequency knob. Right now, this is a whole nother conversation and a whole nother topic, but how to pick these frequencies. This is usually the point where you plug your course. If you sign up for my email list, I'll send you an email with Falcone's secret sauce, and it shows you all these techniques, how to use science and physics and the golden ratio to be able to mathematically and harmonically mix your song based off the key that you're in. Um, and then learning how to use, uh, you know, the physics of sound and wavelength to millisecond ratios to be able to make your song move and feel a certain way based off of how you choose to set attack and release times on compressors, and how you do your multi-band dynamic processing. So that's some geeky shit right there, but that's how I approach mixing, and I love it. So, but right on this particular one, I'm on frequency 117. So a quick rundown of where these where different feelings live. 117, that's where you're gonna get your punch, your smack, your real body, your real tone. So let's listen right here. So let's solo it out. So you hear that? Then you answer. It's the knock, right? Versus if I go lower, like 60 or something. Still get the knock, but I can hear the rumble down there. But see how it's more blocky up here? So then you have a overall saturation knob, you have a different tube here, and then you have a pentode and triode, and they just add different flavors. So see, too much, right? Ooh, some of that might be good though. Pretty powerful. Again, so I'm using gain to enhance the sound without really using any EQ. Then if we go, let's see, and then I'm just using a little EQ shelf here. See, nothing dramatic at this point, just a little shelf. Again, at 1.6 kilohertz. Now that goes back to my geeky stuff of the golden ratio, which is 1.618 and change. So in music and frequency, that's not a coincidence that the ear naturally gravitates to the frequency range of 1.6 kilohertz. That's where our ear is most sensitive, between 1 and 3K. Knowing that and knowing how to get perceived loudness out of something, without having to like get all crazy with an EQ. Sometimes just a gentle 2 dB shelf at 1.6 kilohertz and up could just help tilt it up a little bit. If your low end's a little heavy, like we have from adding the black box kind of saturation in the low end, it's kind of getting a little overwhelming or just a little muddy, if you will. A little tilt on the high end there from 1.6 kilohertz and up kind of brings a little bit more of that air and that brightness back to it without adding too many of the other harsh frequencies really in too much. So that's some geeky stuff. Yeah. So then from there, it goes to LV1 here on channel 1 and 2. So then usually what I do here, I left it all off, and then you know what? While I'm at it, my mic probably sucks. So let's go ahead and show you. Let's talk about gain staging and in you know from a simple understanding first. I'm here showing you my process, but from a simple understanding, uh, let's show you that. So here's my microphone, right? Um, and I already have a mic preamp set up, going through a Mackie mixer, and then just having the mic, going in through the I/O. Here it is. But when you're wanting to add level to something, you have different things, right? You can go in Ableton. This is the volume, right? Basically, you're not adding any gain or anything. This is just controlling how much level there is of something, right? Similar to here over in LV1. This fader right here is the level, basically, of the signal. Like, this is the level going into the summing bus. But, you have, I'm using LV1 like a console, right? So on like an SSL, there's a line input level, which would be the returns from Pro Tools coming out of Pro Tools, or in this case, out of Ableton, into the input of the console. And there's a gain stage right there. And that is basically what this knob here is, right, on the left here, right? This is your input level, your input gain. Now there is gain here, there's circuitry here, there's coloration here, there's stuff going on in this line level, right? I want to take advantage of this. I want this coloration. I like what this little knob does. So I'm going to use it to boost the level. I could just go over and turn that fader up, right? I could go turn this fader up and be good and be like, okay, yay, it's louder, right? But that's not as cool, nor does it sound as good, as if I turn this guy up instead. Now I got some, like, real level going on. It sounds crispy. And I can't even hear it right now, but I know it sounds crispy because I tested it. So if I listen to it here, yeah. See, it sounds a lot better. A lot louder. Full of presence. See? Low end. The body of it comes out. That's me driving this circuitry here. And then I can quickly EQ it a little bit. A little 3K boost. Maybe a little 1.6, 1.3. Maybe a little lower, 1.2. Maybe roll off some. And then I can drive the compressor as well. Hey, hey, hey. 1, 2. Hey. Check. All right. There it is. So what am I doing here? So I'm using input level, gain here, driving the input. So now I'm controlling level basically into the compressor. You see now how I'll just boost this up even more so you can see it. You can see this. This is where their gain reduction is. So I'm going to just turn up the gain until I start getting reduction. And then that's how I can get punch and feeling out of this channel strip, what it's known for. I need to take myself out of this. That's much better. What it's known for, that punch and that feeling. And so I'm using gain to drive the console so it grips the compressor a certain way, right? And now there's an output here. Now this is a VCA fader, right? So this is a voltage controlled amplifier. So when I turn this fader up, I'm boosting gain or voltage on an amplifier. That's a whole lot different than a level. So this is just level again. LV1 fader, level, output fader here on the plugin, voltage. So that's gain. On a console, and I think you could do it on this plugin. I know you can do it on the NLS plugins here. But on a console, you can put all these onto a VCA group, and control all the faders at once, and you're controlling all the gain at once. Let's see, mix down. I don't think that's the one. It might be. Nope, that's not it. So I was going to try to show you that, but so you're basically adding gain here, and then that's where you use your output level here, or your metering, right? So this is your output level, your meters, and then you have your input. This is what's coming in, pre and or post this knob. So you turn it up, you're going to get louder, distorted, but get it in a nice sweet spot. You're hitting 0 here on input, and then your output, you're hitting 0 on the output, and that's kind of where you want to be. Everything's at 0 on output. You're getting mild gain reduction. If you get hotter, you get a little more. So that's kind of how you drive gain for more level while keeping your input to output ratio in check. So you're maximizing the level by how you're driving the input of a piece of gear, and by how you control the output in voltage land before you hit a fader. So I just use the faders in LV1 here. You can see how there's ghosted because I have it sent to a link basically, which is acting as a VCA master for these channels. So and if I move that this one fader, I have a gain down 5.6 dB level going out of the converters into the summing bus. Because again, there's another level of gain staging. How hard am I hitting the input of the 1176? And how hard am I driving the outputs of my D to A converter? And what's the difference of the sound if I drive the input or the outputs of the 192s hotter, resulting in more input going to 1176 and turning the output down, and not using the line level gain on the 1073, versus running a little less hot out of LV1 and then using the line input trim gain on the 1176 to get that coloration. So it depends on the song and everything. So that, again, that's gain staging. Me showing you on the microphone is pretty much everything. That's simple way of explaining it. But like how I do it on all my tracks here is, well, then I start building a virtual console, right? So here's NLS, right? This is a emulation by Waves. It has an SSL console. This is the EMI Pink Floyd console, which I love. And then there's a Neve console, and each has their own flavor, but by far this is my favorite. This sounds really good sometimes on the right thing, more acoustic instruments, and there's a certain kind of openness about this spike, the SSL. This is just like body and power and, low end gain that you just love. It just sounds awesome. It's buttery, it's smooth. And then this is like, this, depending on the type of low end, has a really balanced sound. And it's pleasant to listen to. It's not as aggressive as the mic or the spike here, but I tend to like this on things that are more, I would say, delicate, and kind of still need that fullness in the body to it, but need a less aggression in the upper mids, in the mid-range section. So, but for drums, I always go with this guy here. So then I usually drive it like this, usually around 5. And now I can tell you right off the bat, looking at my meters here, I got to turn some stuff down. And that's where I'm going to go back to Ableton, and I'm going to go to the black box here, and I'm going to mess with this parallel knob, because I had this on here first, right? So, because this is the new version, this is how I had it set without it. with it. And if I head back to LV1, you can see that gain stage is perfect. You know, it's just hitting in the red a little bit. And I'm going to show you what we're going to do with the things that are a little bit over the red. -3 here on these VU meters. That's kind of where you want to be, gain stage wise. So for now, we're going to keep it on that. But I put it to this now, and then, you know, with parallel all the way up, we're getting a little more level, a little more punch. So let's just bring the parallel up. Where was this mix at? 41. So let's bring this down to 41. We still got a little more bump, but that's all right. You know, we can maybe trim the kick drum itself a little bit. Yeah, I'm good with that. All right, so I'll hop back over to LV1. All right, so usually then I go 2500. So it's something like this, or maybe like. Gotta turn my speakers up. PMCs. So there's the difference. This is before, after, before. Fucking cracking the speakers. So I'm just dialing this in. I'm just getting a little bit of gain reduction here. You can see we're on gain reduction here on the source meter. So here's our input level in about -6, our output, and our gain reduction. Just enough. Let me try to up my buffer here and see if this is going to help at all. I got a lot of plugins and stuff going on in this session, so let's see. Kind of made it worse. It's amazing. You up the buffer and it still goes bad. It's because I'm running the screen share, but that's what's going on here. Yeah. Sorry about that. Let's go over here and let's see if I can go to network buffer. All right. All right. So then, so that's where I'm on the 2500 here, and then I usually go F6. I'm going to control, I can solo out. Frequency band here. Control a little bit of that 120. All right, so I'm just controlling the low end a little bit with a dynamic EQ. To that's kind of like just the basic setup of a chain on the gain structure, and kind of then I again drive to figure out how I want to drive the level of the converters and the output here, and then lastly is coming back in. So this is what I have going on here, and this magical piece of what the fuck. This thing is seriously the best thing I think I've ever found. So let's walk through it. It's incredible. So first off, you got. No, I'm going to shut all the rest of this off real quick. We're just going to listen to this on and off. Take this off too, and then turn this on. Off. On. Off. On. Off. On. Just magical. So I'm using it in MS mode, so it's mid-side. So the middle, I have a different EQ basically, or tape EQ setting, and versus the sides. It's just magical. So you can hear what it's doing. I can go through later and show you what all those settings do, but like I find these settings are great. Sometimes I go like this versus that, or I sometimes go here. And that's just the side information, and then here's the mids, flat, EQ, 15, right? Bump it, and then listen to the low end, flat, and then with this EQ, bump it, flat, bump it. Again, it's just like, fuck, what does that do? I don't know, but I'm adding perceived volume and sauce. That just sounds great. All right, so then we got our tone, which is an EQ. Off. On. Off. on, off, on. Pretty wild. And this thing is just like, I mean, listen to these. Like, you could solo out this frequency band, and then you can check all these different shapes. Like, listen to the low, and then I mean, this is how silky the the highs are. Incredible. And then you again mid side. So this is mid side, and then listen to the side ones, and like the different positions. It's like only the side information, but like listen to what dramatic shift that is at 1.5K, and then it's just like, and then you solo those, and then you listen to them. You can start like shaping the sound differently. You can shape the stereo field. You can boost the EQ like just in this little spot. Like get this little tone to come out. Really powerful. And then the limiter. So it's off, on, off, on, off, on. And it's just these little movements. And now it's just so tight. All right, so now, last thing in the chain. This is on the print coming back in before we actually print back into Ableton. We have the linear band multi-band dynamics processor by Wave. It sounds amazing. It's silky. It's smooth, and this is where I can control the peaks that I'm gonna go be basically printing to back into the DAW. Getting any digital overs in the file itself. But, since we're using 32-bit files here, that really doesn't matter because I have so much headroom anyway. Even if it goes over 0, I can gain it down, and that's another advantage. By working in 32-bit, I can drive it over 0 and then use something like a clipper to just peak whatever goes over a digital 0 down to a square wave. That makes it kind of sound punchy and kind of the modern sound anyway, but this is kind of doing some of that in a tastefully musical way with these linear multi-phase linear. It's hard to say. Linear phase multi-band dynamics processor. All right. So let's hear what this thing's doing. That's off, on, off, on, off, on. So there's that thing. And then what's going on this bad boy, huh? So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bands that you can have different basically compressors on. And this is just a kind of starting point of kind of how I set it and where I put my frequencies. But um, most importantly, the attack and the release times of things. That goes back to the Falcone secret sauce. So if you want to join the Discord, if you want to join the Patreon, you can come on over and hang out, and we'll teach you how to use the Falcone secret sauce chart. But just a little, snippet of that. You can set the attack and release times based off the fundamental frequencies of the key of the song, and control the fundamentals or frequencies below and above the fundamental to allow the compression or the control that you're trying to do in those frequency ranges to be musical. So that's kind of where experimenting with between 20 and 30 milliseconds, between 40 and 50 milliseconds, 70, 80 milliseconds, on your attack times, and then even lower on higher frequencies and things like that. But that's a whole other conversation, but that's kind of what I'm doing with the attack and release times. I'm setting it to be musical to the key of the song. So it kind of controls it in a nice way that you really don't hear what this thing is doing. And I'm using this auto makeup feature to where when I pull the threshold down, you see values down here. These are peak values. And that's usually where I set my threshold levels are usually at the peak. So I'll listen to the whole song and see where the peaks of the songs are, or peaks are at, and then I'll lower this threshold down and automatically make that gain up. So it's just kind of kissing the tops of it and then bringing the gain up in those frequency ranges, because anything over the threshold is going to be attenuated by the processing or the compressor there. So it kind of gives it a nice balance. And when you're setting your gain and driving everything correctly, as I am here, I know at this stage the peaks is all I need to really worry about, or the peaks are all I really need to worry about. And then, yep, so I print it back into Ableton so I can go back over here. Let's see if let's hop back over here and make sure this is being routed. So I want to route it to 13 and 14 on my computer. Hop over to Ableton. There's 13 and 14. And you can see there's our level. Perfectly perfect, as they say in the crypto world. And in the John Harris world, -10 wins. And we're pretty much, at -10 coming back in here. Is where we want to be. And then usually, let's go ahead and play the full song in this drop section. Real quick. Over here. Someone. I'm sorry about all that clicking and popping and all that bullshit. But I'm trying to do this, and we'll get that all right. I'll have to have a pared down session so it doesn't have all this processing. But I'm going to now send it back out to an external output from Ableton. And then we're going to go to 31 to 32, hop back over to LV1, and then I'm going to go from my computer 31 to 32. So if I hit play here, there it is. Right, so then I can say I don't want to hear this anymore. I want to monitor from this track, but it has to go to the stream. And I got to go ahead and turn this up to what? -5.6. Beautiful. So when I press play here, now we're monitoring that. I gotta go to channel. I gotta take this channel out of the mix. So now we are monitoring the output of Ableton again, which is the 2-track printed back from the summing bus, back through all the EQ and back through the D to A. It's going in Ableton 13 and 14 because I routed out of this channel, which is getting the input from the D to A to converter, the Rosetta Apogee. In there, it's going through this processing that we have on there, and it's being routed out to my computer, 13 and 14. So then I go to Ableton. 13 and 14 is the input. And then I want to send that out, and I have an auto input so I can hear that being printed. And then we have to route it out again so we can hear it. So I'm using an external output. 31 and 32 is a free set of outputs. Go back over to LV1. Go to the next available channel, channel 15. Input is going to be channel 31 and 32 from my computer. There's the input. And then I want to send it out to a matrix because the matrix is how I send stuff around. Matrix 1 are my speakers right here in the studio. Matrix 1. Matrix 2 is the live stream itself, so you can see it going there, but it's not, my mic is not going to the studio because I don't want to hear it. I have it routed out to a device right here, my third I/O 1 and 2, that goes to my speakers, and then I have this routed to the computer's input 3 and 4. That's how it's going to the stream, and it's also going out these other outputs, which are headphones and other things around the studio. So that is that. So then we can go back over to Ableton, and then I love it when it does that. So here's a little. Now I'm going to apply my mastering chain or my more chain here, other things inside Ableton. Without. Whew. So that's fudging horrible. Let me see if I can close some of this down real quick. Because that's ridiculous. All right, so let's go one at a time. We got this glue compressor, and this basically acts like the SSL bus compressor that you see over here. Sometimes I use it over here if I'm trying to control low end in a certain way, and I probably would on this song, but I just haven't gotten there because I'm kind of just walking through. But in the original session, how I just had everything in the box, this was sounding really good, and I'll kind of show you how I set it. First thing is this sidechain EQ filter, right? So this is something I do a lot on the master bus here, is because, you know, I've already spent a lot of time to get my low end really tight and where I want it, and I really don't want anything in the, you know, on the master chain to start kind of taking that away even more, because I spent a lot of time like getting it tight and not boomy, and that's what that last multi-band dynamics processor printing in kind of does, controls the low end, because that's usually the thing that's going to be the over in a lot of the music that I do. So I kind of use this filter here to say, okay, anything under 138 hertz, I'm not going to let the compressor trigger at, basically. So the only 138 hertz and above is going to be triggered by this compressor, basically. so the low end will stay intact. I'm using a 4-to-1 ratio with the audio release and a 10 millisecond attack. Because I kind of just wanted I like the punch that I'm getting around between 100 and 120 hertz. Um, so um, I'm trying to kind of add a little bit more of that. That's why I'm going with the 10 millisecond attack time versus a 30 millisecond attack time. Moderate threshold. You see, it's not doing a lot. Just kind of kissing it. Just kissing it a little bit, right? And as I go and as I mix, my level gets hotter, and I have to readjust all my gain staging and stuff. This is probably going to kiss a little bit more, probably between probably like 2 dB. I try to like set my gain structure to like C 2.7 dB, like something like that, is where I kind of like to get the level to kind of hit this compressor that much. So here I'm just using a dynamic EQ to control the super low end, and I'm taking 1.37 dB on a low shelf from 27 and below, and that's it on this. It's incredible. That sucks so bad. That sounds horrible. I'll have to figure that out. Like I increase it and it gets worse. It gets worse. That's what's wild about that shit. You're supposed to turn that up and it all gets better, but it don't. It's probably because of the screen share. I'm doing a lot at the same time here. Fucking fuck. Really kills the flow, but we're almost done with this. So, show you the last little piece of the limiter. It's so bad. That digital shit is horrible. Hopefully, I can just hear that. Hopefully you don't hear it too, but you probably do. All right, so this is the limiter. This thing's incredible. This is again, like all limiters have special flavors and different things that they do. Cool. This has these styles, and this wide one is just incredible. I'm guessing it's like a mid-side limiter where it's limiting the middle verse differently than it is the sides. Again, see, I'm only adding 2.9 dB of gain into the limiter, but there's this amount of style that you're adding, and then you have a parallel knob that blends the original dry signal with the fully wet signal. And when you manipulate these knobs, I'll try to move around. Oh, it's ridiculous. You can't even hear what I'm doing because it just sounds like a fucking bunch of distortion. Boo. But if you could hear what I was doing, magical. Anyway, so we're going to go over here, fade to the 2 call, zoom into me, and we're back, ladies and gentlemen. We had a lot of fun. There was a lot of gain staging crap that I talked about. But yeah, man, I'm here to try to help. I know what it is to be, in a position of knowing you're good at what you do and you're doing your thing and people are paying you to do it, but you feel like you're still guessing. And, I spent a long time perfecting my craft to now I'm not guessing anymore. I really know what I'm doing and I know what I did to get there. And I'm trying to, build material and content for guys that are in that same position. Wants that extra, 25% of the way there. They want to know how to get you there, and I got some tips and tricks to show them how to do it. So cool. Tune in next time. Falcone here, coming to you from Nashville, Tennessee. Y'all have a good day, and hopefully that all went well. And yeah, peace.